welcome to episode 8 of the VanDyk West Michigan Conference Weekly Coaches Show. I'm host Cody Kater. Each week I'm chatting with a coach and players from the West Michigan Conference football team. Today we feature the Fremont Packers. Head coach Jared Hudson is joined by senior running back Justin Durhamheimer and senior linebacker Michael Romero. And in its first season in the West Michigan Conference, Fremont is 4-4 overall and 1-4 in the WMC Lakes Division. The Packers are coming off a 49-8 home loss against an excellent Whitehall team. This Friday, Fremont will host fellow WMC newcomer Manistee for their homecoming game. Before we get any further into the show, let's thank our sponsors, from whom without their support like this would not be possible. First off, thanks to our title sponsor, VanDyk Mortgage Lakeshore. Also, thanks to Foundation Systems of Michigan, Scheid Plumbing, Heating and Cooling, and David Duesenberry of Coldwell Banker, Durga Insurance, Chris Dykema and Sarah Reel at Green Ridge, Big Stone Therapies, North Grove Brewers, and Grieve Law. A little bit more about our guest. Jared Hudson is his first year at Fremont as head coach. The 2006 Fremont alumnus, spent his previous 4 years as an athletic director at Holton. From 2013 to 16, he was head football coach at Coopersville. Hudson has guided the Packers to their first 4-win season since 2014. They're seeking their first winning season since 2013, when the team finished 6-4. Accompanying Hudson on the show are senior running back Justin Durhamheimer, who leads the West Michigan Conference in rushing with 1,239 yards on 234 carries. That's 5.3 yards per carry to go with 9 touchdowns. He's caught 14 passes for 177 yards and 3 touchdowns. Also with Hudson is senior linebacker Michael Romero, who leads the defensive side of the ball. He has averaged just a shade under 7 tackles per game with 55.5 on the season, and also has a pair of interceptions. So thanks, guys, for showing up to the podcast here. We're excited to kind of get to talk about Fremont and joining the new league here, and kind of what your guys' thoughts are on that. But first, let's talk a little bit about last week, where maybe you guys have tried to move on, or you are moving on, from that piece and that learning moment. But Coach, what was your take on last week, and what were the emotions and what were the takeaways, I guess you would say, after playing a tough Whitehall team?
Whitehall is a really good football team. That's first and foremost. We knew that, obviously, going into the game, that they were going to be a tall task to line up with them and to take down the proverbial giant. But our challenge for our kids was play our best football and try to shorten the game up with hopefully some long drives and soak the clock up a little bit and try to get it into the fourth quarter. Unfortunately, we weren't able to quite do that. They're pretty dynamic, so we kind of had to show our kids, even today when we were cleaning up some of the stuff, that you give them a little space, and good teams really make you pay for it. And that's exactly kind of how I felt like Whitehall operates. They're all their stuff, both offensively and defensively, they just run very clean things, and when they take advantage of you when you make your mistakes. So, we definitely had a few positives throughout the night, and we were able to, point some of those out to our kids and saying, hey, we're moving in the right direction, but obviously that's where we want to be, and we're just not quite there yet. So we got to just keep working at raising the level of our play and competitiveness going into the West Michigan Conference for year 2.
Right on. I think there's no such thing as failure, right? I mean, you're going to learn regardless. It just depends on your mentality and your mindset. Justin, what was your takeaways from that game? I mean, that's the top dog in the conference on that side. So what was your takeaways after you're leading the conference here in rushing yards? So you're doing a great job there in your O-line and obviously your cast around you. But what were your takeaways going against Whitehall?
Their defense is pretty good. And I don't know. I was just trying to get as many yards as I could and try to punch it in and help my team out, but they just did mostly everything right to stop me.
Right on. So I think as you prepare for a game like that, Michael, what were your takeaways? I mean, you're leading the team in tackles. Got a couple picks. As you play a good team like Whitehall, but also just the offense and the pace in which it moved. What were your takeaways that you guys are going to use going forward?
They're definitely the best football team that I've seen and played against, and I saw that on film, and I was trying to figure out like what their tendencies are, and I just did my best. I thought the team did their best, but they're just a great football team, and they played a lot better than us that day.
All right, so we're gonna move on. After a tough week like that, I think it's really important because you guys are having a great year. And kind of a bounce back year. So, and just in the means and new coach and, probably new conversations within the hallways and the locker rooms and those things. And you've got a tough task ahead of you on homecoming week with a lot of, distractions and those kinds of things. But you got a team here in Manistee coming to town that, that they're new as well to the conference, but they've kind of have a similar season as you guys have had. So what are you looking for that in that game, Coach?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, looking at Manistee and some of the stuff that they do, I think they do a really good job of being patient on offense, and they can, really kind of make you pay with that. They run, they have the bone. They've kind of broken it over the last few weeks, but it's very patient with, their trap and power, and they just wait for you to make that mistake and then try to jump on you with a big play. And, they've got a little momentum. Their win last week was a big win for them in their program. And for us, we're kind of looking at trying to make a similar statement in the WMC. So obviously we've competed a few times with some of the members of the WMC, and we've got away with one win. But our next step is to really be able to kind of leapfrog into this off season, and who knows what will happen after Friday if we can come away victorious. But we really want to kind of set the tone going into the off season of say, hey, we got a winning record. Mm-hmm. We can play football. We can play good quality football. And then, we can kind of reflect a little bit on a few of those games that we're close and we came up short on, and say, that's the difference between the top tier of, the WMC compared to where we're at right now. So we're definitely got a lot to play for. That winning record is a huge deal to our team. It was something that we had talked about it as a team goal early on in the year, and bringing and playing our best football in the latter part of the season is always the goal as a coach, right? So really trying to put a full game together, both offensively and defensively, I think is going to be key. But that's really going to be our goal is just try to play our best football game week 9.
Michael, what do you have to do to make sure that happens in playing that best football game, but also just making sure the defense is as understanding the game plan and making sure that they can execute? What do you have to do to take, what do you as a player have to do to make sure that you can take away Manistee's strengths?
I feel like I can always improve my leadership and try to bring up others with myself. It's going to be my last game, maybe. We'll see what happens as a senior, so I can always try to let that motivate me. And I just need to watch my film, figure out what they're trying to do, and read my keys and just do my job, and it'll help my team.
What does Manistee do that you have to, take away?
Run the ball.
All right. So this is going to be one of those games that's in between the tackles, and
oh yeah, for sure.
And you're going to have to play physical. Is that a game that you really look forward to as a?
Yeah, I enjoy stopping the run. I feel like that's what my strength is, and I feel like that's what our defense's strength is. So if we come ready to stop the ball, then we should win.
On homecoming.
Yes, sir.
Last game possibly that you could ever play on that football field.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty intriguing, right?
It is, yeah.
That's exactly everything that you looked for. All right.
Make movies like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Cool. So, Justin, on the offensive side, Manistee was able to put 50 points up on Montague, but they also let up 20. What do you expect out of the game on Friday?
Oh, I expect us to get some runs, a lot of points up. I have a lot of confidence in our line, and just try to keep my line positive. If they make a mistake, I got to help them, pick them back up.
Right on. So you have 234 carries. You have by far the most carries in the area. Obviously, Coach here trusts you. and believes in your running style. But what does the O-line do that really helps you, have that trust from the coach and from the other teammates? What do you like so much about your O-line?
Probably just their work ethic. They're always trying to get better. They're always working pretty hard. And even in the games when they mess up, they're always just trying to get better.
Okay, is that one of those O-linemen giving you a call right now, telling them to give them a shout out or what?
No, actually, it's a Powder Puff.
Oh, okay.
I'm one of the Powder Puff coach. I guess they're calling me right now.
Yeah, they need
calling you too.
We're missing practice today.
Okay, they need a little intel.
Yes,
I guess so.
They need to understand how to run the ball, I guess. Maybe.
Yeah.
I thought Powder Puff was around flag football or throwing the ball a little bit. So, Justin, you obviously had 234 carries. I wondered this, and a couple of my coaches on my staff wondered this as well. And, I did ask the question prior to getting on air here, but how many carries do you get also at practice?
Not as many as I get in the game.
Okay. All right. Because, he's obviously a workhorse. I mean, it's awesome to see, and especially have all that credit given to the O-line because, that's what's so beautiful about this game of football. So, Coach, you're from Fremont. You've been into a couple other schools at this point, so you've seen kind of how these other communities or these other districts kind of, what they believe about football or kind of how they just work. What do you like so much about Fremont, so far?
Well, I'm first and foremost, I'm really surprised and. In a obviously a great way, the work ethic of our kids that are here, because obviously still being from the area and following Fremont and seeing some of their shortcomings the last it's about 7 years, it's real easy to see how you could go into a place like that with expectations being very low, but also maybe the work ethic, the kids' buy-in being low, and credit to our senior class. We only actually have 8 seniors, and they have had, I think I'm their 3rd head coach within their 4 years here. It would have been really easy for those guys to say, hey, who's this guy? I don't know much about him. I don't trust him. I'm going to do my thing. But they kind of really were the first ones to buy in, and obviously the most crucial piece of the buy-in, because the younger kids are looking up to them and they're watching how they operate, and if they're being able to take on the coaching that we're providing them, and how are they going to respond when they have adversity hit them and things like that. That part has been absolutely amazing. I couldn't have asked for a better group. And yeah, our numbers are not super great at the varsity level right now, where we usually dress about 24 guys. But the guys that we have, I'm thrilled that we have those guys. And, we've just got some tough dudes that, we're giving the ball to Justin 30 times a game. And, most kids probably won't complain about that, but obviously he's not either. And he'd be willing to, take it 40 times a game or 20 if we need to air the ball out a little bit more. So just that piece is a great start for me to be able to come back home for that. Obviously, being from Fremont, there's that level of pride of wanting more for Fremont than what they had currently been achieving. So, I had the opportunity to play for Dan Roan when I was there, so it was probably the glory days of the Fremont time. But just being from there and seeing where we were and where we could be to where we're at now, that has been, obviously a big motivation for me to come back home. My last stop at Holton, I was still living in Fremont. My wife's from Fremont. She teaches in 4th grade in Fremont. Our youngest is just starting school, and he's going to Fremont as well. So it was kind of one of those things, the stars kind of aligned. I really liked my job in Holton. I wasn't planning on leaving, but as this opportunity got more real, it became more of kind of almost, destiny. It seemed like it was going to be a fit, and it was time for me to really take over the coaching piece again, put on the coaching hat a little bit more than I had in the past couple of years. But that piece, just being from there and wanting more for that town has been great. And that helps too with just the community building too. Is now I'm at the age that I'm still young, but not as young. And, now I'm knowing, some of the business leaders and stuff from the area that have, either taken over their parents' business or started their own I've maybe went to school with them, or, they know of me and I know of them a little bit more than, going into a brand new place. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of pieces that made this move advantageous, but, one of the things that I said, the most important thing and the biggest surprise to me was just the welcoming from the kids. Like, I really thought that was the buy-in is going to be, it was usually a big piece. Mm-hmm. It's important. But sometimes that can be the hardest piece. And for these kids to say, hey, we're sick of losing. We're willing to try whatever it takes to not lose as much. And that really helped us out because we're able to really dig in and coach hard. And, sometimes when you coach hard, kids can think that you're not friends with them and you don't love them and you don't care about them. But, we were intentional about building our summer up to where we were getting that relationship piece because we were coming in so late into the game. So I had to get those relationships. So then when it was time to do the hard coaching, that those kids realized, I'm not this mean dude that's coming in yelling at them, telling them everything they're doing wrong.
Right on. So I think, obviously Coach has some deep roots with Fremont, and maybe you guys knew, maybe you guys didn't, but why buy in?
Well, first of all, we had to learn a whole new offense and defense, so we had to stay really focused in practice. And, senior year, we're just out there giving everything we got to finish off our football career the way we want to.
What did Coach bring to the table, though? What did he bring to the table to make you buy in and make you want to be a leader, make you want to give your best effort going into your senior year? Tough question.
Yeah, I would probably say a few different things. I mean, it's a lot different from last year. The team feels a lot more connected. Practices I'm having a lot more fun at. He's a easy guy to talk to. Like, I like the new coaches that he brought in, and it's just a different feel this year.
Okay, and then Justin, you're getting 30 to 40 touches a game, so you're already pretty happy. But what was that turning point, I guess, maybe in the summer, that said, hey, this season might be a little bit different than maybe previous seasons?
Probably like the attitude of the coaches coming in. They weren't all mean to everybody, because that was a big problem last year. The coaches didn't really care too much about the kids, and everybody was quitting. But this year, everybody wanted to play when the coaches came because of the attitude. And then once we did 7-on-7, seeing how good we were doing then, how helpful the coaches were when we were messing up, it was just a lot of kids wanted to come out and play.
Right on. So I think, the care piece, mattered a lot from the sounds of it. What does it mean for you guys? So Michael, have you gone to Fremont your entire life?
No, I went to Hesperia kindergarten through 8th grade, and then I transferred.
So you transferred to Fremont. So what does it mean, to take care of, the Fremont Packers? So this is your legend as a player. You're 4 years there, but this is also your senior year, and then going into your last game possibly. What does it mean for you to take care of Fremont? What does Fremont mean to you?
Means everything to me. I'd say. This football team, this grade that I'm in, we get to have the opportunity to leave our footprint in this program, because it's the winning season that we could have in the last 7 years without it. So it means a lot to leave our reputation with the grades coming in.
Okay, and Justin, what about you? Have you gone to Fremont your entire life? So you've gone through the system. You've seen teams probably come through. You've heard of probably special teams. Yeah. The Dan Roan era and all that type of stuff. I even think when I was a senior, we played against a really tough Fremont team as well. That was in 2009. We played them in the last game of the season. I think we ended up winning 14-0 or like 14-6, but it was one of the toughest games we played in. You guys still had the old stadium there?
Yep.
Yeah, we played there, and I don't know if your fire trucks came there and like tried to spray a bunch of water in both end zones, but it was a mud pit, man. It was a great time, but not for the quarterback, not for myself, but it was a great time just probably for football in general, especially for those guys in Fremont. What does it mean for you? You probably have seen some of these games come through. What does it mean for you to be a Fremont Packer?
Probably what Mike said about everything, leave our footprint here, get a winning record. Because growing up, I've always thought, like, my age group, the people I've always played football with, were once we got to seniors, we would have a winning record. And that's what I'm hoping we have.
Right on. Yeah, I think that'll be a great legend for you guys. So, Coach, you're a newcomer to the West Michigan Conference. You've also, you guys you've been around in other conferences. What do you think about this? This alignment now with Fremont and the WMC.
Yeah, I mean, specifically for Fremont, I think it was a huge move and a great move in the right direction. There's no reason that the district, collectively shouldn't be competing with, the Whitehalls, the Montagues, the Oak Ridges of the world. I think it makes a ton of sense geographically. When I played, we were in the Lakes 8, and that was back with like Spring Lake and Fruitport. So I kind of grew up playing Muskegon area teams, and then the last few years there when they were in the CSAA, they were making some long travel to the middle of the state, to Remus, to up to Reed City and things like that. And there's no offense to any of those schools or the CSAA, but when you think of West Michigan, Muskegon area, and you think of whether it's football, basketball, whatever, the WMC has a lot of prestige there and a lot of recognition that people are like, oh, you play in the WMC, like you kind of get some instant credibility. And just with the landscape of Fremont, I think it was a great fit for them. I was really excited to go into it. My first coaching stint was at Coopersville, and that was in the OK Blue. And at that time, West Catholic was rolling, and Catholic Central was in that. So I was in a very difficult competitive conference as well there, and there's a lot of that reminds me of these tiers where, especially for us at Fremont, where we might not quite be there yet, but there's definitely week in and week out. You should expect a really tough game. You can't count on anyone yet, and things like that. So, you always want a very competitive conference. You always want the discrepancy of the haves and the have-nots. And I really think the West Michigan Conference moving to this is gonna benefit not only the other teams that are already in the conference, but the newcomers as well. And I think it's just gonna make Muskegon area sports in general even better.
Right. I think, you want to be in a tough conference just because you then know that if you win that conference, you have a good opportunity. It's like the SEC in college. Yeah. It's like what the Big Ten's doing right now with a couple of these top tier level teams that if you win that one, you're in decent shape. Yep. What does Fremont have to do to move that bar, to kind of close that gap and get closer to the top?
Yeah. I think there's no way around it. I mean, was it Saban? The work is the work, right? Mm-hmm. So we got a lot of hard work to do. It's going to start in the off season. I came in probably middle of May, and I actually even worked at Holton through June. So it was, the first month and a half of me even being at Fremont was, it was kind of a blur because, I was working the day job and then going at night and doing things, and having a full off season obviously is going to be huge for us, and getting some of that momentum and keeping our numbers growing. I think our middle school has made it into the 40s for our numbers, so we're taking steps in the right direction there, and we're getting them involved in some of our summer stuff. So the more the more buy-in we can create, and the more opportunities we can create for the kids is going to be key. And anytime there's a transition from one coach to another, there's definitely different styles that take place, but also just how off seasons operate are just completely different. And just being able to come in and implement the type of off season that I want, us to have at Fremont is going to take some time. But if we start, springboarding that in with a winning season to a great off season, that's going to help start closing the gap. And then, it's just one of those things of climbing closer every year to the Whitehalls and Oak Ridges of the conference, and saying we want to go toe to toe with these guys. That's our expectation, and just find ways to get better along the way to kind of close that gap.
All right. So Justin, I'm going to give you the platform, man. This is your opportunity as a senior to sit here and talk and tell the other Fremont, young boys going through elementary and going through the middle school, like, what do they need to do to also help close that gap?
Put me on the spotlight here.
Yeah. Take it home, man.
I don't know, probably just work your hardest. Do work on the off season a lot. Like me personally, I've worked at football my whole life, off season, during season with my dad usually, helped me a lot. But just work as hard as you can and do good in school, and you just gotta
I love that,
do what you gotta do.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Michael, what do you think, man? I mean, it sounds like you have maybe, I don't know, if you were playing football at Hesperia or not, but
Yep.
Okay, so you obviously had some takeaways looking at what that program looked like, from an outsider kind of looking in as a middle school player. But what do you think, Fremont has to do to take it to the next level?
I just like to emphasize that the work that you put in practice is never going to be enough if you want to win. You're going to have to work your hardest at home, before practice, after practice, like in the classroom. And I feel like we just have to raise our standards to be able to compete with these good teams in the West Michigan Conference.
Raise the standard. How do we do that? How do we raise the standard at Fremont?
With like work ethic and just your effort that you put in practice.
Right, and then maybe the expectations of what they want out of football.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, good deal. I like that. So, Coach, you've been around the block a little bit, and now you're coming back to Fremont, and you obviously were a player with Dan Rowan. What are some things that maybe you took away from maybe your time at Coopersville? You took away maybe from some of the coaches at Holton that you were advising, and then now also looking back on your time as a player and kind of what your takeaways were as those coaches were leading that program. What are some takeaways that you're going to try to implement here at Fremont, and the listeners can understand where you're going with this program?
Yeah, I think. Like most coaches probably realize, like once you start kind of getting into the game a little bit and you start putting on the coach's hat, you kind of realize how much or how little you may actually know about the game of football, and the quicker that you can realize that and come to terms with that, the probably better off you are as a coach. So, it's been a learning it's lifelong learning, right, as an educator. So once I decided that I wanted to be a football coach and a teacher, like it was on, and I was able to play a little bit of football over at Hope. So I realized I wasn't going to be playing on Sundays, but I wanted to be around the game, and teaching and coaching was obviously a great fit for that. So then getting those opportunities to grow as a coach, as a person, as a leader, I think those things are invaluable, and some of it is you just takes experience to live that, and being, I think I'm 34 now, and to have the opportunity of being a head coach at 24 was awesome. It was really hard, but there's things that I learned from that I was able to take and help with young coaches, when I was working with them at Holton, and then even now just having a little bit different perspective on football and athletics in general, and realizing, you got to do a lot more than just coach the X's and O's, and the generation is different, and, that kind of young coach in you where you're like, trying to have to show the kids that more than them and things like that has kind of morphed now, and you understand it a little bit better. Where like when kids are asking you why, they're not, challenging you, they're just, inquisitive, and that's when you should be getting excited as a coach, because now you got kids that are buying in and want to know more than just, I need to block down. Like, why do I block down? Where does that take me? Where does that lead me? And so understanding that is definitely a huge thing, and making that progress as a coach, and just realizing, we got us as coaches have a lot more work to do too, and trying to get better every year, just like the kids are, is going to be paramount to build the program. And because if you're sitting and happy with where you are, you're not going to be there for long. That's for sure. Right
on. What as us going forward here, what do you guys expect out of the Fremont football program? What do you expect out of coach here and the rest of the program going forward?
Hopefully for it to just keep getting better every year.
All right. And Justin, what about you? What are you thinking?
Hoping for more kids come out, more kids play, and more kids buy into what he's doing.
All right. Good deal. How are you going to help with that, Justin?
Well, hopefully we get a winning record this year, and more people will like that, because the past couple of years we won like one game in a long time. So usually kids don't want to play when they don't win. So
right on. So that's going to do it for us. This has been a great show, and getting a sneak peek at kind of you guys going into Manistee, but also what the program is looking like and what the conversations you guys are having. I think always we have a saying at RP, and we're just sit with winners. The conversation's different, so it's success breeds success, just like you guys are speaking on. So it's a lot of hard work to get there, but once you get there, how can you springboard it into more victories? So that's awesome. But before we leave, I got to thank our sponsors again. Thank you to VanDyk Mortgage Lakeshore. Also thank you to Foundation Systems of Michigan, Scheid Plumbing, Heating and Cooling, David Dusenberry, Durga Insurance, Chris Dykema and Sarah Reel at Green Ridge, Big Stone Therapies, North Grove Brewers, and Grieve Law. That will do it for this week's episode of VanDyk Mortgage West Michigan Conference Weekly Coaches Show. Enjoy the games, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, guys.